What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Hot Toys 1/6 scale Marvel figure unboxing. And today we have a dope figure from a dope movie, and I can't wait to see the character again. And that would be Shang-Chi in The Legend of the Ten Rings. Shang-Chi himself. Oh man, he looks great on the front of the box, and his shoulder kind of goes onto the side. Gold lettering Shang-Chi on the side. Legal information around the back. But I can't wait. I gotta slide this off. I literally just popped on the camera because I was like, I want to get my raw reaction for you guys. But oh my god, comes with a bunch of things. Now I will say, my last figure, the Black Widow, the wrist pegs were so annoying that I couldn't do as many poses as I wanted to do. Where like Deadpool, I was able to get him into a whole bunch of different poses because it was so nice and easy to swap in and out, like, and they just went smoothly. And I hope this is the same, but his red outfit looks good, and like just look at all the different things he comes with in there. Like he comes with, yeah, we'll pull it out and show everything. But yeah, Shang-Chi's like not the Ten Rings logo, but I guess like his type of symbol on the back, kind of like his like pattern on his chest, I guess, like the scalies. But yeah, let's pop open the top and pull this bad boy out and take a closer look at this figure. Alright, so popped off the lid there, and you see it comes with, what, 4 right hands and like a whole forearm attachment. Crazy. A couple different different hand attachment pegs if one breaks or something, you got some spares. But yeah, like the 10 rings if he was wearing them on his arms, and then you also have 10 like loose rings themselves up here. Interesting. I wonder if you're able to put them on just like his normal rolled up sleeved arms and just have them kind of like dangling. Like remember how Wenwu in the beginning of the movie kind of had them as like bracelets and they were kind of like jangling on his wrists? I kind of dug that look, like as if he was just chilling with them, as they were just like an accessory, and then at any moment they could become like a fire blasting boom, like, I don't know how these go on, but I don't know. Let me get into the instructions before I break things. But let me pop out this boy right here, Shang-Chi himself. Ooh, Simu, Liu, my man, looking good. The forearms look real detailed, like the crazy vein work. Hands as well. There is a little bit of a gap on the wrist peg that's annoying, but I'm sure if you have the rings on there, you cover up the wrist peg gap just fine. He's kind of got these normal like black pants. They almost like dress pants. Like he was like going to a wedding and he was like, let me go put on my super top and my Jordans. Or are these like his valet pants? And then they just put him on top like this uniform. Now, the uniform in real life looks so gorgeous. If you ever watched the behind the scenes of Shang-Chi, the scaliness looks so perfect. Where this looks just kind of like, not that great as the movie looks. But the head sculpt looks pretty damn good, and the accessories look cool. And there's even more accessories underneath. So let me pull everything that comes with this 1/6 scale Hot Toys Shang-Chi from Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, pull out all of his accessories and his display base and get him sitting nice in just a neutral display, and then show you guys everything that he comes with, and then we'll show you maybe some size comparisons with some couple of the figures, and then we'll put him in some poses, and then we'll see where he's gonna fit on the shelf. But this one is a cool looking figure, but I'll definitely get a closer look on his head sculpt and everything for you guys, and a more close-up look on his suit when in the next shot. But yeah, it'll be 1 second for you guys. Oh, right, we'll take a look at Shang-Chi, closer look at him in a moment. But everything that Shang-Chi from Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is laid out on the table with all his different hand grips, with his different kung fu type of poses, slightly more open gesturing hand, 2 fists that can be grabbing fists to either grab the rings or to grab these batons. There are these staffs that have just the normal scaling, kind of like his suit, but then it's got like the light up effect scaling. You can kind of see how they differ there. And like, I'm guessing this one catches more light and is like more reflective too. But
they could have very easily just gave you one stick with swapped out ends, but nope, gave you 2 sticks. So that's kind of a nice touch. But the real thing we're here for are the 10 rings, right? So this piece here, I believe Shang-Chi grabs these 2 rings, and then this piece magnets together with what Wenwu would have, and it kind of has this display effect where him and Wenwu, his father, are like pulling the rings apart from each other. And, you know, nice little touch, but I don't know if I'll be able to use this just with Shang-Chi himself. So this might be the only thing that you don't see, you know, attached for like a pose. And maybe when I get Wenwu, I can use that. But there is these fire elements, and you can see that there is like these little holes where the rings would go, and one of them I have the rings in, and the other one I don't, just to give you kind of an example that they do pop in and out. And like this can go on his fist, and like his hand goes through there as like a, you know, yin and yang type of thing, or it can go through his foot, and or it can just be on his fist like a punching effect, you know, like it's these rings are catching some fire as they're going to punch him. But then there's also these blasting effects, which, you know, are a nice little touch that, you know, can just make it look like they're blasting off. Although I would be careful, because people were saying that it might damage his forearm getting this thing on and off. Now you can see, wiggle this piece out, that part goes around his forearm, the wrist peg would come through here, and you can put it on the fist and just have him wearing it like he had just shot off 2 of the rings, and he's only wearing 3 more. But, you know, as you can see, this slides on through just a couple little plastic pieces. This is like a little foam piece where like either his fist or just like the wrist peg would be sitting, because I don't think it says in the instructions to like leave the fist on in there. I don't think there's a way to get the fist on in there if you really wanted to. So this just kind of slots on there like that, and it's like a cool effect, but not sure I'm going to be using this effect. Now, swap out forearms is a good touch. Now, my rings do seem pretty sturdy. It's not like they move or anything. So this is more like, you know, you probably rip out the arms at the elbow joint there and stick it back in there. You can attach different head or, you know, hand gestures on the end there. So you can use just the normal forearms or these forearms if you want. But, you know, a nice little touch of like, you know, if you just wanted to have him chilling there with the 5 rings on his arm, like, you know, as if they're like really grabbing his arm instead of just resting gingerly, you could. And, you know, the detail on like the vein work underneath the rings is a nice touch. Some people online were also saying that they could have thrown in, if they were going to throw in swap out arms, they could have thrown in some arms that had full wrist pegs, so you didn't have the wrist seam like you do on the actual figure with the regular arms. But let's take a closer look at that. Shang-Chi in front of you here, that Simu Liu head sculpt does look really good. The dragon necklace, you know, some people were saying they didn't want to wear this because he's not ever wearing the necklace when he's wearing this red suit. Me personally, that doesn't bother me that much because I like to have my figures dripped out with as much of their accessories that they come with as possible. And, you know, he's got like these tapered pants. The only thing I would say is that maybe this toe could be a little bit articulating. You know, we've seen some shoes that have some toe articulation in the past, or even like Spider-Man, like the foot kind of articulates for all these different poses. And for somebody as much as a martial arts guy as him, you know, I feel like he should have some extra, you know, mobility. But you could see like the painted forearms, so you might want to be careful when you're putting on those, you know, ring effects. But you could also see that wrist peg that is quite prominent and you can't really hide it. So I gave you the example with the 5 rings that aren't on the other flame effect, that if you wanted to just slide them on his arm loose, you could. And then it does cover the ball peg and, you know, kind of still has that 5 rings effect that isn't like the swap out forearms. But we'll swap out the forearms and do all the looks when we get to that point in just a moment, and we'll get, you know, some different poses, some different of the effects, and see how they look. And what I'm really interested in is to see him next to some of the other Hot Toys Marvel figures I have, and see Shang-Chi next to, say, you know, Spider-Man or Captain America or Vision or Wanda or, you know, anybody. Iron Man, you know, and Thor, you know, anybody that he hasn't shown up next to. You know, we've seen him show up a little bit next to Hulk, but he was just in his Bruce Banner form, and he's showing him a little bit with Captain Marvel and Wong in the post-credit scene of his movie, but you know, it is what it is. I've been dying to see Shang-Chi 2, and I can't wait for his movie to come out. But let's toss this bad boy into some different poses and show you guys what Shang-Chi from Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is capable of. Oh, one more thing I forgot to show you guys is the display base, just with Shang-Chi and his logo on there. I believe that's like the homeland of, what was it called? Ta Lo. I believe that's like the Ta Lo symbol. And then Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, the little red trim around the outside. Shang-Chi on the front comes with a flight pole with my flight grabber is quite loose, but when you go like that, I'm sure it brings more tightness to this joint back here. But yeah, not a bad little display base, and you know, flight pole so you can get him in some artsy, you know, flipping or, you know, throwing kicks poses. But honestly, I think a flight pole or, you know, just a regular crotch grabber would have worked fine. But yeah, nice little display base. So a bit of a figure comparison here and a bit of a size comparison. If we ever got, you know, some of the ladies from the Shang-Chi movie like Katie, Aquafina, which is also kind of like Shang-Chi's girlfriend by the end of that movie. I assumed that they were together by the end of that. I don't have Bruce Banner or Captain Marvel quite yet to be able to do a side-by-side comparison with maybe some other characters that Shang-Chi has seen, like in the post-credit scene. I also don't have Wong, which are all characters I would love to get at some point. But, you know, just a height comparison next to Black Widow here. And Black Widow's unboxing video for that snowsuit came out yesterday. So go check that out if you haven't already. I appreciate it if you guys have. That's a cool suit and very clean. So make sure you wash your hands before you touch that one. But yeah, so if we ever get a Zhai Ling or a Katie, this is about the size that she'd be standing next to Shang-Chi. And yeah, his fire effects do really look cool. And I can't wait to have this bad boy on the shelf. But let's get a couple other figure comparisons here. Now, this feels almost fitting now that Shang-Chi's director, Dustin Daniel Cretton, has signed on to do Spider-Man 4 with Tom Holland. I'm thinking maybe we could see Spider-Man learning some martial arts from Shang-Chi and learning how to hand-to-hand combat a little bit better. Because, you know, we never really saw him training hand-to-hand combat-wise, you know, like just his spider senses have always been able to help him out in that side of things. But, you know, really just his suits have always had this high-tech, you know, suits from Tony Stark. So now that he has more of a homemade suit, maybe still with Karen and the HUD in his mask, but the rest of the suit is pretty much just homemade in the red and blue suit from the end of No Way Home. I'm thinking Spider-Man, while he's in New York, he's going to have to be figuring out how to fight better hand-to-hand wise. And who better to learn from than a martial arts master, Shang-Chi? And they have teamed up a little bit in the comics to do something similar. So I think it would be really cool to bring back Shang-Chi in a Spider-Man movie and have him, you know, be a decent main part to it. I mean, there also is rumors that Bruce Banner, Hulk, is going to be in Spider-Man 4. So, you know, where was the last time we seen Hulk? Was in the post-credit scene of Shang-Chi, right? Or maybe She-Hulk, depending which one came first. You know, this is a while ago, so I'm not sure which one came first. But, you know, either way, Dustin Daniel Cretton and Shang-Chi, what are the potential that he is in Spider-Man 4? And if so, would that be something that you guys would want to see? Drop that down in the comment section below. Do you want to see Shang-Chi teaming up with Spider-Man or side by side with Spider-Man? Like, that would be sick. Imagine these two and Daredevil fighting street level crime in New York. Crazy. Although, you know, currently right now, we know Shang-Chi is in San Francisco or, you know, wherever Wong portaled him to. Maybe Talokan, maybe, you know what I mean? The Sanctum, maybe Kamar-Taj. Who knows? But let's get a couple other figure comparisons. If there was one character in the MCU that I would want Shang-Chi to meet, it would have to be Chris Evans, Steve Rogers, Captain America. You know, just so bummed that his character is like, you know, just in the ether and just either back in time with Peggy or old. Like, that is, no. I need Chris Evans, Captain America, to be on the moon doing something, or just, you know, around, you know, like I would love for him to be around and just being Captain America still, even alongside Sam Wilson. But I really think Shang-Chi and Captain America would be cool to see fight each other, you know, the different power sets, seeing the rings like clang off the shield, I think would be cool. I don't know, just two characters that are so very different that I would be fascinated to see them on screen. But also, you know, in all fairness, I am fascinated to see Shang-Chi with anybody on screen. But let's finish this out. All right, so we have a couple different poses here for Shang-Chi with 5 loose rings on his left arm and part of the shooting effect on his right arm, as if he just shot 2 of the rings off, but not, you know, have the whole shooting effect attached to him. And then we have him with both of the shooting effects on both arms. Like he's got 2 ring cannons shooting off his arms. Not my favorite look, but I wanted to give you guys a look of it anyways. And then we have loose rings around either forearm with the staff behind his back, you know, so kind of a fighting pose if he was fighting with his staff. And then we have the kicking fire effect and the rings and the fire effect, but you can also mount this around his wrist or his foot, so you can have it, you know, kicking effect as if he was, you know, a martial artist, and, you know, just a fun little thing that this figure can do because it has great articulation and showing off some of the high kick and martial arts capabilities this figure has. And I was actually thoroughly impressed how sturdy this figure was without the flagpole, and that it can hold itself up pretty dang good. And, you know, its high kick can get really up there. So, you know, very flexible figure as well. And then its next pose, it had the 2 swap out ring of forearms that it comes with. Not my favorite look, not the easiest to get in, but, you know, in a karate stance nonetheless with those double forearms. And then the final pose that I think I'm going to be repping it in the most is the double fire ring effects around both arms. I tried to get them in a stance where the fire effects kind of looked like a yin-yang symbol, one like below, one above, but it didn't quite work out. But around either side of him, kind of placing him inside of this ring of fire, right? Like if it was to close off at the top and close off at the bottom, he would kind of be in the center of this ring, right? So I just think that would be a cool effect and just a cool look that we see. And honestly, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is a movie that, like, I've watched a bunch since it's come out, but man, do I need to watch it more. You know, like, now that I get older, I'm not rewatching movies as much as I used to. When I was younger in high school, you know, if I liked something, I watched it 4 or 5 times that week because I liked it so much. Now, you know, I watch something once or twice in a year and I'm like, oh, that's enough. I've watched it more than once, you know, where I'm watching all these different movies now and I'm doing movie reviews for the channel. So I'm constantly watching new stuff and not necessarily the old stuff that I enjoyed. And I've been trying to get back to that roots, because that's like kind of what is my core of movie loving, is that I find a movie I love and then I watch it over and over again and find other things I love about it. And, you know, sometimes, unfortunately, you get to the point where you overwatch something and then, you know, you never want to watch something again because you've now killed it. You know, that you've just watched it so much that you know it. You don't even need to watch it anymore. But, you know, movies like Shang-Chi and stuff that's come out in the later of the phases, in phase 4 of Marvel and like the multiverse saga, there is some movies that are really great in there. And there's a couple like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Wakanda Forever that are incredibly sad. So the rewatchability for me isn't there. Where like Deadpool and Wolverine, the rewatchability is there. But now, after I've rewatched it a bunch of times, the opening intro song makes it so annoying that I don't even want to finish the movie. You know, so that movie is something I don't really want to watch all that often anymore. Spider-Man No Way Home, as much as it's phenomenal with the 3 Spider-Man coming back, what they do to Aunt May is heartbreaking, right? So like, you know, there's certain parts in these newer movies that I'm like, God damn, they're just crushing my soul. But Shang-Chi was one of those where it had its emotion, had heart, but was also this brand new character and this origin story that, you know, we haven't had a great origin story, I don't think, as good as Shang-Chi's probably since, what, Iron Man 1, where it's just like he's the standalone character doing his thing, where like even Spider-Man Homecoming had Tony Stark in it, where like that gave him a leg up, you know, like And he also had shown up in Civil War before that. Like, this was his first appearance for Shang-Chi, and he hasn't shown up since, which really pisses me off. I really hope this guy gets a sequel movie. I hope he's a huge part of Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, and I hope he's a part of Spider-Man 4 with Dustin Daniel Cretton, the director of Shang-Chi, doing that film, you know? So maybe with that connection, at the very least, the stunts and action and fighting choreography that was so good in Shang-Chi will be there for Spider-Man 4. But I am ecstatic to see Shang-Chi again in the MCU, and this Hot Toys Marvel 1/6 scale figure sitting in front of me looks so perfect and so spot on to Simu Liu, and looks like he's genuinely standing there in front of me. Now, I have said my couple gripes, which is really just with the suit, and like, it looks the part, sure, but in real life that suit is like millions of scales and so much detail, and it does a decent job of conveying that. But I'm telling you guys, if you haven't, go watch the Marvel assembled, you know, behind the scenes making of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and the details in the costumes and the details in the sets that we don't even really get to see in the film are so amazing. And it really goes to show that the people making this movie had a real love for what they were doing, and, you know, really brought their most effort in art form to it. And it was really beautiful to see. And, you know, shout out the costume design team and the costume department and all the cast and crew, because if you were involved on Shang-Chi, or if you were involved in making this Hot Toys figure, you guys freaking killed it. And yeah, comment below where you want to see Shang-Chi show up next in the MCU. Also comment below, what Marvel figure should I grab next? And if you guys have made it this far in the video, my name's Big Cam. Thank you guys so much. Follow my other social medias down in the description below. Big Cam, 2 G's in the Big, pretty much anywhere, and you can find me. Twitter, X, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, all over the place. You can find me. Just search Big Cam, 2 G's in the Big. And if you've made it this far in the video, I highly appreciate you. Please consider liking this video, commenting below, subscribing if you're new. Those are all great ways to get this video and the channel out into the algorithm and help the channel grow. And if you haven't already, hit that bell so you don't miss future Hot Toys Marvel unboxings and you get the notifications when they come out. Once again, my name is Big Cam. Thank you guys so much, you beautiful people, for coming on by, and I will see you beautiful people in the next one. Peace!